My name is Brenda Kasuva. If we haven't met yet, welcome to the Pass Real Estate Exam. If you're not a member yet, because you're seeing this elsewhere, go ahead and join us on Facebook, Pass Real Estate Exam on Facebook as a group, and we shall continue that journey to make sure you reach your goal, which is passing the real estate exam. I am covering fair housing. And when we're talking about fair housing, if you are going to take the exam and your testing facility is PSI, then it's going to be covered under the topic of practice of real estate. There's another testing facility known as Pearson VUE. In the comments, I will be posting a link of my video that shows you how you are able to pull up what you can expect when you go take your national real estate exam. For my friends who are in the states that have PSI as a testing facility, for example, Maryland, where I am located, then this gives you a breakdown of practice of real estate. Where we are starting off is, this is where you are going to see the breakdown of the question. Remember, the exam has two parts to it, right? You have the national exam side where the definition of or the protected classes, for example, in fair housing, federal cover everywhere, no matter where you are, whether you're in Maryland, Arizona, Alabama, doesn't matter, it's federal. And then you have state questions where they will now start asking you, well, what is specific, for example, in Maryland? So there are two parts of the exam. When you go look at your breakdown, for those of you who are going to be going under PSI testing facility, this is the example you're going to see. Practice of real estate does talk about protected federal fair housing laws, and this is the part that I will be talking about today. If I flip over to, for example, my friends in Arizona, for example, I just did a quick glance at what is possible when you're taking the exam, for example, in Arizona, which is under Pearson VUE. You will notice that one of your questions are going to be 4 questions on fair housing. So if you're watching this, it doesn't matter where you are when you're taking the real estate exam here in the United States, the topic of fair housing is going to show up. What are the 7 protected categories? So I give you a minute to see whether you can remember them. There's 7 protected categories in the United States that are federal protected categories when it comes to the residential side of our business. The 7 are, we cannot discriminate based on race, color, religion, national origin, sex. Some of you might prefer the word gender, disability, and familial status. These 7, if you don't hear these words on a regular basis because you're not in property management, you're not yet a real estate licensee, then you might not recall all of them. So what we're trying to do is to help you remember some of these terms. And so this is where we're going to have a memory tip that you can use. And if you have others, please go ahead and put that in the comments as well for others to be able to benefit. So the 7, this is one that was presented by a student of mine that I love and I use till today, that we all have our personal biases, our own personal stereotypes, our own implicit bias. And so fair housing laws are existing to make sure that we do not discriminate. So how do I remember all 7? The hint here is that we are forced not to discriminate. So we're going against what it is that maybe we are used to in terms of our own opinions, to keep our opinions to ourselves. So we are forced. The R is for race. The F is for familial status. The O stands for origin. The R is for religion. C, color. The E, she got it in place of sex. That's where the E comes up. And then the D is disability. Are forced. We are forced not to discriminate. Keep your opinions to yourself. It doesn't matter based on the person's color, familial status, origin, religion, sex, color, sex, and disability. That could work for some. Another one that I've seen is fresh corn. Here we're trying to remember the 7 protected categories. So fresh corn ends up spelling out familial status, religion, sex, handicap, even though disability might be what you hear. And then corn ends up being color, race, and national origin. You can pick one. We are forced not to discriminate. Spell out the R, forced, or fresh corn, and this is how you remember your 7. Every single state will have individual additional protected categories. Please review on that. For those of us who are in Maryland, I'm going to be biased here. We have 4 additional protected categories, and that is marital status, sexual orientation, gender identity, and source of income. These are the 7 protected categories. Now we go through remembering the years. Most of you have reviewed your American history. Some of us, it's been introduced to you. So this is where we're going to review the year in which the laws were enacted. Race comes first, 1866. The oldest one is no discrimination based on race, and that was presented to us in 1866. So the oldest one, race. We then go over 100 years later and we get Title 8 of 1968 is where we have the 4, race, color, national origin, and religion. How will I remember this is Title 8 of 1968 has the 4. So your memory tip for some of us, it might work, is Title 8, the number 8, 68 has 4. Title 8 of 68 has 4. Race, color, national origin, religion. Title 8 of 68 has the 4. Race, color, religion, national origin. And if I'm gonna be very basic, now again, all of this, some of us might equate to, you look at the person and you could probably tell their race, their color, their national origin, maybe based on how they speak with an accent. And then religion could maybe be helpful based on what I wear or what I have that indicates what religion I belong to or believe in. Fast forward to the next one, 74. 74 is when sex or gender was added. 1974, Housing Community Development Act of 1974, sex, whether you're male or female. How might I remember this one? 1974, we're having the women's movement. And that is why the law was put into place to where prior to that there was discrimination, where if I as a woman is trying to purchase, especially if I'm single, the assumption is that I will not be able to manage the payments. So 1974, sex, male or female. The last one, 1988. So I'm checking to see whether there are any questions and comments. You can put them on there if you're watching this live. And definitely, if you're watching this as a replay, keep putting them in the comments for me to respond. The last one is 1988. 1988, we have the two remaining ones, familial status and disability. Familial status and disability. We then go into familial status does have certain exemptions to where even though fair housing rules do apply only on the residential side, there are going to be some residential areas that are exempt on familial status, meaning there are rules as to if you have, and again, familial status, not to assume is what? Presence of children, anyone under 18 that you're taking care of. In this particular part that we're talking about is as a result of the Housing for Older Persons Act, HOPA, is where we have two designated residences that are exempt, meaning they can limit the presence of children, and that is okay. It is not illegal. You're made aware of it prior to you living there. Here's where we need to remember that it's one or the other. The entire development, everyone is over 62. So if everyone is over 62, they have the right to say no presence of children. Or one person in 80% of the occupied units is over 55. So it's one or the other. And please remember, this is going to impact the people who occupy the units or the space, not necessarily the person who owns it. So if I'm under 55, I could own the unit and then someone over 55 could live there. This has to do with the occupancy when we're talking about these exemptions. For test purposes, over 62 or one person over 55 in 80% of the occupied units. Next conversation is on the residential side. There are more people who are exempt, meaning they can pick and choose based on the person's race, color, religion, and familial status, and all the 7 protected categories. When we're talking about who's exempt, 3 things apply. And let me clean up my statement because I think I say the 7 protected categories. Race is not one of them. When it comes to you being exempt, meaning you can pick and choose who is it that's going to live in this particular space, or who is it you're going to sell the property to, then your picking cannot be based on race. In your advertisement, you cannot show preference. And the last one, a licensee cannot be involved. Once a licensee is involved, we follow the rules and we have to make sure that there's no discrimination based on the protected categories, not only federal, but also what is applicable in your state, and also maybe what could be applicable in your jurisdiction. Exemptions, the 3 apply. Nothing to do with race. Race is never exempt. Your advertising cannot show preference. And the last one, no licensee is involved. When we get to ADA, number 15 is going to be helpful. Number 15 is where, as an employee, once you have 15 employees or more, then we need to make reasonable accommodation according to Americans with Disabilities Act. The other thing I'm going to review is the last part, which is your fair housing prohibited conduct or possible violations that obviously we are not going to be involved in, especially once you get your real estate license. You're bound to follow not only the federal rules, but also your state rules and your local jurisdiction rules as well. And fair housing is definitely one of those conversations that we need to be aware of. The 3 presented are blockbusting, steering, and redlining. Let's review the definitions of all three. Blockbusting is you're targeting sellers. You're telling them that people of a protected category, one of the 7, race, color, religion, national origin, sex or gender, familial status or disability, are going to impact the value of their property as a result of them moving in that particular area. So it's going to cause a decline in the area and increase in crime and so on. Here, for test purposes, keep in mind here the conversation is to help you pass the real estate exam. You will have an expanded conversation once you get your real estate license. Some of your states are going to require you to take a fair housing class as part of your continuing education. Blockbusting. What is your memory tip on this one? I'm going to highlight that blockbusting, you're targeting sellers. Blockbusting, you're targeting sellers. So your memory tip is what? The word blockbusting. And if you look at the history, it's people are immigrating to the United States, and there's a heavy flow of people, let's say from a certain country, and they will move to the United States and stay in a particular area. And then as history goes, there's a change of people moving in. So blockbusting in its sense, if I'm going to simplify the words, is busting up the block. This entire block is occupied by, let's say, people from this particular area. One person sells it to an individual from a different culture or country, and now blockbusting is being used on a negative side, that it's going to impact the neighborhood. Blockbusting, you're busting up the block. You, the licensee, is involved in that. You're busting up the block. Obviously, that is illegal. Blockbusting, you're targeting sellers. The next one is steering. Steering is you're targeting buyers. So steering is on the buyer side. Definitely something that you're not going to get involved in. Again, all your opinions, you're keeping it to yourself. You're only required to disclose what? Material facts. So when we're talking about steering, this is where you're either making a property unavailable to a buyer or a tenant, or you are letting them know that they should or should not consider a particular area. With steering, the memory tip on this one is going to be the word itself as well. And for the visual person, hopefully this is helping. Steering, look at your steering wheel. Who's potentially going to be in your car is a buyer or a tenant. For those of you who drive your clients around, for the licensees who might be watching. So steering is you're driving people into a certain area by telling them, hey, consider this area, or driving them away from a particular area. Hey, don't consider this particular area based on your own opinions. That is not something that we engage in. Buyers, you're doing your homework and telling us where it is that you want to purchase and live in. The last one is redlining. Redlining is something that the lender or the insurance company is going to participate in, which is again negative, to where they're refusing to participate in giving the money or providing insurance coverage based on where the property is located. The word itself helps. Redlining, there's a red line to where they're saying, no, we're not going to participate just based on where the property is located. When you go online, you're going to see maps that if you just search for redlining, you will see a map like this, where again in red is considered where the lender might not want to give money for somebody to purchase in that area just based on where it's located. Hopefully that helps you. There's more coming up. We do have exam prep sessions the first Tuesday of every month on here, or rather, sorry, we offer it through Zoom. You're able to register online. Those are no cost to you. First Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And then we have more detailed conversations with group coaching sessions the second Thursday at 6:30. So now it's coming up on February the 10th. And then the next one, we have it on the third Saturday, different topics focused on the national side of the exam. Doesn't matter where you are. You're welcome to register for all of these sessions on my page, brendakasuva.com. Let's connect. You're able to scan that QR code and find a list of where I am going to participate in a conversation to do with real estate education. Until next time, thank you and have a great day.